Hello, friends. How's everybody doing today? Yoli, how are you
Right.
doing?
Oh, good. I'm good. I'm our tactress at the moment. So
Yeah,
getting it all set up and going, all the
we,
ways to meet you friends.
mm, yeah, Yoli's been the YouTube streaming techtress. Good stuff. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, Ruth Ann, lead
mm.
us in.
Yeah, man. Um, well, for those of you who are tuning in now or tuning in later, so glad you're here. So many things we've feel like Yoli and I talk regularly about how we have so much to talk about. It becomes more of a question of like what kind of calls in that moment. Um, it's something I think both of us kind of both of us sort of independently marinate on and reflect on in advance. And then, I mean, what like some of the best sort of magical, creative, alchemical points is that usually somehow both of us uh, end up kind of having very close similar ideas of what we end up feeling called to chat about. And I guess for those, if this might be a first YouTube for anyone or someone who's tuning in just now, my name is Ruth Ann Gagnon, and I am hailing from Chicago. And you are listening to our Monday chat on DEI Cypher, which is a consulting group that focuses on DEI work and transformation in the wellness, hospitality, lifestyle yoga world, in the form of workshops, in the form of retreat, in the form of consulting. But yeah, so we've been really having a good time kind of thinking about what's in the moment, what calls us right now, what makes the most sense. And I feel like last week Yuli, I feel like we kind of, we were talking about seasonal change a little bit. We were talking about we started to get into the overall concept of definition of terms and sort of the linguistic sort of swirling around how we use words, and also then how powerful that is, and then also how we can start to change the lens a little bit on some of the terms that we use and how that actually affects then our actions out in the world. So one of the things I know that's been on our minds a lot as we go into this season of, we're in this season of harvesting, we're in this season of taking stock, right? We're taking stock of kind of what we're literally making stocks, like we're kind of putting everything into the pot to sort of be like, where are we now? What's happening? And leading into, we're slowly inching into winter, which is such this beautiful invitation and opportunity for rest. That all being said, I think we've really been pondering a lot this notion of rest, sleep, restoration, active, passive. I don't know, Yoli.
Yeah.
Where are you at today?
Where am I at? Where am I at?
Where are you at
I'm
today on
really
rest?
feeling the inward turn towards restfulness, this seasonal turn towards restfulness. So just to give a quick introduction, my name is Yoli Maya Ye. My pronouns are she, her, a co-founder with Ruth Ann of DEI Cypher. Both Ruth Ann and I have really long tenured backgrounds in consulting, in varieties of industries that include yoga, wellness, healthcare, lifestyle, product, hospitality, food and beverage, spa and resort, adventure education. I could keep going. I'm going to pause there. We've summarized that into 4 core industries that we want to serve and bring into community conversation, retreat, restoration together. We think it's a very rich intersection in the nexus of yoga, wellness, hospitality, and lifestyle industries. And it's so important that we ourselves walk our own talk. And really what we should do is to share with you all these core tools for individual and community levels in that approaching transformation on individual and organizational levels. Sometimes I define DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, simply as, when we're saying it's like work, DEI work. Like what do we do when we do DEI? I think of it as transformational work. And for me, transformational work is all about healing. And some of the things that I teach in some of my spaces is about the principles of healing. How does healing work? What's the atmosphere and environment for healing? Well, healing is essentially restoring right rhythm or operating in right time. And so we have to look at other cycles of time that we interact with. And seasonal awareness is huge. So here we are in the season at the tail end of autumn, unless you happen to be in the other hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, y'all are on the reverse map, about to come into spring, and it's going to be like, boo pow, let's go. Springtime, visioning, imagining
Coming
possibilities, all this spring, super vertical growth industry. Let's go build that vision. We, in the northern hemisphere, we are in the diametric opposition of that energy. It's the turn, and we've already been in the transition period, but now it's the latter part of the autumn season. So it's late autumn, and in some places, depending on how far north you are, you're already into early winter. You've had your first snows, things are heading towards frequent frost and freeze. And if you didn't get it out of the ground, those last bits of kale, they're still growing, but they're tough as hell.
You gotta let them really sit in the soup. Like in
soups
the stew,
only.
you got
don't be
soups
stir
only.
frying
Let them
that
braise,
late autumn winter kale.
Up.
That's soups only. And Ruth Ann, you already said it. It's time for stocks. Right?
Yeah,
we're making stocks. We're making broths, right?
Yeah.
So it's so funny, not funny, a thing that in our American culture, Western European culture, especially American culture, we shove a bunch of celebrations and holidays into this very important period of time where we're supposed to be turning inwards. In nonprofit land, it's gala season. Oh man, gala. Ruth Ann just assisted a huge gala this week. I mean, talk about like high energy, also total energy, just siphoner, and pressure. It's goal oriented, right? It's a performance and goal oriented. So it's gala season, it's fundraising season in the nonprofit world. It's the fourth quarter push before the fourth quarter give up bit, which is about the second week of December, right? We take a little break for Thanksgiving week. We know that we have about 2.5 more weeks before it's holiday party gauntlet. Unless you're the organization that fits your holiday party into November or January.
Yeah. So
right?
true.
Right? And then you've got, the pressure, the cultural, societal pressure, and the consumerism of the holidays. I'm going to be honest with y'all. We couldn't pick a worse part of the year to do all this very young, expressive, outer, pressureful, cultural practices that really would be fitted so well into the middle of summer when we have all the energy to recruit from. So what we wanted to talk about tonight is a very popularized wellness topic, which is work-life burnout. And what we really want to encourage you all on is how we guard rest. And it
Yeah.
starts with awareness that, yes, in fact, the fatigue that you feel is real. Let's acknowledge it. Start with that. Let's listen to the body's language of tiredness, right? It starts with this very deep listening. We have to learn the body's responsive language to stress, to cumulative stress, what the language of fatigue and burnout. Wow. I mean, full power burnout is we missed or ignored all the signs and symbols that came beforehand. So it
They've
said
all burned up.
railroad track,
Literally,
railroad
like,
track
burnout is,
ending, railroad track ending, 1 mile, half mile. No, legit, this railroad track is ending. And you're just still 50 miles an hour on that high-speed train. Well, that's not really high speed, but you know what I mean. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thoughts, Ruth Ann?
Yeah, no, you were making me think about, like, I mean, burnout, it's another sort of like, even just the I think we think about a lot of the way we use words, right? They have power,
Mm.
they have meaning. Burnout, and you just said it, Yoli, it's like burnout is like we burned up all of the signs. They gone. Like, they're gone because, and it doesn't mean we can't get ourselves back. It doesn't mean, I mean, like, it's, the healing is that much more needed. It is crucial, but it does, like, we're looking, when we start to look at healing and restoration, especially when we're on the brink of burnout and or are already way past that point where, like, you're just kind of walking around asleep a little bit. And we'll talk about asleepness versus resting, restoration. When you're backtracking on your crumbs a little bit, yeah, you're dealing with, like, the embers. You gotta look, yeah, we gotta, to really, like, look through the heat, like, to where we may have kind of diverted a little bit. And I also want to say, this is an extremely human experience. Like, we all
Yes.
do this. We do this. This is not something that, like, there can be, coming also to decentralized leadership concepts, guru model concept. Like, Yuli and I are both very human. We've absolutely been in the space of, oh my gosh, I've gone way too, like, I have to find my breadcrumbs. I have to find the embers, the burn up from the burnout, and figure out how to get my way back into right timing, right aliveness, right path, just course correcting. And
Yeah.
so,
Ruth Ann,
yeah.
you brought in a language that's really important. I want to highlight. You were saying, like, a sleepwalking, right?
Ooh,
And that's one of the 3 possible major stress responses. We've got fight, we've got flight. We're going to rev the engine and we're going to keep going towards it. We're going to pull back and try to run away from it. And then there's actually this third space that you're talking about, which is numbness, disconnection, depression, helplessness, hopelessness,
yeah.
a foggy space, so just really naming these possibilities of how we could be responding to the cumulative stress experience.
Yeah.
And then when we plug it into the season that we're in right now, the season is trying to call us towards rest. So if you're not
Yeah.
able to cultivate any moments or exercises of restfulness in your day, night, in your waking time, because we want to make this distinction in a second. What are you drawing from? What are you recruiting from? You're reaching into the deep store, the deep battery store.
Yeah.
And that's where we start tapping into health vitality.
Yeah. So real. And it, you know, and I think, you know, one of the things that I've been thinking about while we're talking is, you know, when we talk about work life, you know, work life balance, when we talk about, um, you know, what would it be? What would it feel like to even just lightly experiment with the idea of putting some restfulness towards the front of your priorities? What would it look like? This seems like, I know, you know, I feel like culturally right now we're talking so much about like hashtag boundaries, like hashtag, you know, say no, all these things. I'm not even talking about deep extremes. That's not even what everyone has available to them. That is not what you all have available in the workspace. We are living in a, you know, in this late stage capitalistic space that not everybody gets to just be like, you know what, I'm taking 2 weeks off in the middle of fall. You know, that's all very real. Also, you know, at the same time, I'm like, man, you know, what would it look like within what's possible to say, what would it feel like to just be like, okay, I'm going to put this body first. I'm going to put this restfulness first. And for some of us, yeah, like just actual sleep is might be the starting point. You know, that might be the starting point. And also want to call in that, you know, that when we, again, coming back to definition of terms, you know, rest has kind of been, you know, deeply associated with this notion of sleeping, like actual sleeping. You know, we've got really large corporations like Google and other places having these nap rooms and all these other pieces. And I want to hear, you know, we were talking about this earlier about like, well, wait a minute, that's cool, y'all. And does anybody actually know how to rest? Like this, you know, the physical space is available. What about the psychospiritual embodied space, all the spaces, you know?
Yeah.
Like if the human
Yeah.
bodies that, if, you know, we, and you know, again, coming back to, there can be this real specific notion of like stillness being the way to restore.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Like only sleep.
Yeah, or
I'm so
only
stressed,
still
I'm gonna go
meditation,
to
or,
sleep.
you know, yeah.
And at the same time, what's most likely possible is that you need some help restoring the quality of your sleep rest, right? You've named a host of really important things. You know, one of them is it's very popular to broadcast right now on individual levels how you're reclaiming your rest, how you're reclaiming your healing journey, and just recognizing that for some folks, that is a really empowering practice to share their healing journeys and their rest journeys with their communities. I think it also gets muddled in with some very performative versions of this, and so if you're a rest baby and this journey is new to you, what we need are just some like honest worker class tools. You know, like what does it look like to be a regular old person and rehabilitate your rest? It's not just through sleep. The other thing I want to name that we were giggling about, you know, before we got on today is the trend in workspaces designing rest spaces. Look, we like the trend. We like the trend. But what we recognize is you might actually have to give people tools of rest. Just because there's a space for them to lounge or be in a hammock or one of those fun, like hanging swing chairs, you know, cool. And what do they do when they get in there? You know, are they really just like thinking about work? How do you turn it off? We were joking about the show Succession.
Or severance.
I mean,
yeah, severance.
Sorry,
Yeah.
severance. Yeah, sorry, Succession. Totally other thing. That'll be when
We
we
can talk about that
leadership
show another
development.
day.
Yeah, we'll talk about that show
about that show
and
another
related
day.
to leadership development, decentralized leadership models.
We got
But
so many
severance-
options here. Severance. Yeah.
You know, calling in this fantasy, this science fiction fantasy that you can turn the brain off. Look, there are ways to turn the brain off. You have to train the body, brain, being how to do that. And the way you do that is not through colonialist methods. So we got an inherent problem here.
Yeah.
You know, that like the companies, the organizations are providing the rest spaces, but they don't know that you're actually going to have to train people in how to rest. You're going to have to give them techniques. You're going to have to help them within the 24-hour lived experience. How do we rest, rehabilitate sleep rest? Because sleep rest is supposed to be a very, very, very important restful, restorative healing space for body, mind, spirit, being. And then we also want to speak to active rest. So activities that generate restful experiences in the body. Now, the thing about the mind is the mind has to be wrangled. The mind has to be trained. The mind jumps from object to multiple object. And unfortunately, we live in a world where multitasking has been given reward as that's the best thing to do. Unfortunately, this brain isn't built to multitask. The brain has evolved to concentrate on one thing at a time and do that very well. So what we cultivate in rest practice, mindfulness practice, meditation practice, is one-pointed concentration. Because if you're spending so much of your day in the multitasking, the remedy is to spend time in the day in one-pointed concentration. Yeah. But guess what? One-pointed concentration can be about body-mind awareness. One-pointed concentration can be on the breath. One-pointed concentration can be an affirmation, a sankalpa, resolve or intention. One-pointed concentration can be about sensation in the physical body, the energy body, all sorts of things. We just need a focal point. But to be honest with you, the breath is a brilliant, brilliant focal point. And I believe that that's part of the reason why things like breath work, this very generalized, basically breath work is like the next mindfulness thing. It's taken from indigenous practices out of the context and then delivered. You know, for example, I think of a positive example for me is actually Wim Hof method. I don't think Wim Hof is trying to culturally appropriate anything. Man's just coming out in his shorts, his guitar, you know, and he's just representing on his cold water immersion and the breath work that's needed to override autonomic nervous system. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so it's just kind of straightforward. I don't really have a problem with that. He's not really actually taking indigenous rooted practices, taking them out of their cultural context and then calling them breath work and then sprinkling in a little psilocybin mushroom, you know, and then as ayahuasca, you know, and the next thing you know, you're on retreat in Tulum, you know, doing your thing. So, I'm totally speaking from like my own witnessing, not my participation, because it's not my cup of tea, but literally what I witnessed.
It can get
last time I was in Tulum. Okay, so like this,
100%.
But I think the prevalence has come up in a way, just like when mindfulness movement was coming up, and every organization was like, you know what, this is easy. Like we can bring this in. Yes, this makes sense.
There was there was a concept of ease on this
concept of ease, a little bit more of a Western scientific language.
Yeah.
You know, so even when Ruth Ann and I present our tools for restoration and transformation, we want to share with you some science that's relevant, some science that helps you
Yeah.
understand how this body rebuilds its capacity for rest. Yeah, we also want to talk to you about why that's important. We're actually much more interested in sharing the practices themselves with you, giving a little bit of background and putting the practices on repeat with this, and also helping with the lifestyle transformation component of it. Look, behavioral change is not easy. You need help in order to break old habits or make new habits. Whatever's the approach you're taking, it might be a little bit of both at the same time. You generally need some kind of coaching, support, community, accountability, so that you're doing it in a way that works for you in your right timing, in your right rhythm, with your nuances of life.
Yeah.
Family, responsibilities, first, second, third, fourth job, your community organizing, your volunteerism, your philanthropy, all the things.
Well, and Yoli, the other thing, one of the things there's a couple, well, there's always a million things I'm thinking about, but the couple things that like I'm processing too that I think are important to share here is that, the reality is, so, and this, is, again, we can go to the statistics, but the reality is, like training in an organization is one of the most expensive pieces of a budget. Coming back to this whole notion about kind of throwing the restroom in, the rest space room, like throwing the nap room in. But there's no training behind it, because that of course means, well, the first piece was like, okay, cool, let's throw in physical space. Having like a real series with a team, about, hey, we've made the physical space, now let's make space for your body to do this too. That's a different kind of investment, financially, time-wise, energy-wise. That's a trust that actually is real, that it's going to do something for the team. And the reality is, because this is also part of why I kind of like love this time of year too, from this very like creative perspective, is like, oh my gosh, you get to like harvest all your stuff, right? And you get to like think about what's happening. And the reality is, like, if you're looking for innovation, iteration, just some general energetic shift in energetics for a certain kind of way of productivity that you're looking for in an organization, like making this space is crucial. It is crucial, like, but the tool, not just the physical space, we have to give people all different kinds of support. And I can tell you, from my own experience, from my personal lived experience, and with other groups, man, it is the speed of trust, man. And it is a constant speed of trust to really be like, oh man, if I do less and restore more, the creative arisings are going to come through. The solutions, the authentic, real solutions that move your needle in a real way, not like with your mission. It can be with your finances. It can be with all, many aspects of an organization. But man, I know we sort of, the whole notion of like, oh yeah, we're moving at the, at the speed of life, or the speed of trust. That's kind of phrases that are thrown around a lot these days, but there is a real, like, there's, we can have we'll have a whole nother talk one day about embodied fear and body-based fear, but this trust and fear component of like, oh man, is this really going to work? And then it does, and then there's this component of like, well, we tried it for 21 days, because 21 days to change a habit. This is where the data becomes, a whole different thing. That is not, sure, you can have a benchmark at 21 days, have a look, see how folks are feeling, but like, that's not gonna.
Or we made the room, nobody uses it.
Yes,
we brought in the yoga
you.
teacher, nobody goes. I've been the yoga teacher that you brought in.
I know.
But nobody goes.
Like,
Right. Because how can they?
um,
There's not a culture of putting the work down.
I mean, I remember no, and I even for myself, I remember I spent most of my 20s in women's public health care and advocacy. I remember being at that or at organizations, very femme-led, 98% femme employed, fairly diverse on the scale of socioeconomics, race, ethnicity, all those things. I remember having I kind of one day, I mean, I was young, like, but I had to kind of put the little velvet hammer down on someone who was like, "Oh my gosh, you have time to eat lunch?" And I was like, I find this very odd that this is a femme women's led advocacy organization and I am being scolded. You are attempting to scold me for making time to eat. Like I was just like, no,
It's so
no.
common. It's so
But it's
common.
so
We have
common.
a
I'm not even knocking them. Like like I just remember having that like moment of just being like, oh no, 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 no. Like that's not okay. And I'm gonna say something. It might not change anything, but also you need to hear me. Like you need to hear this because maybe that inception over time will change. But anyways, like just
it's gonna
just
take
this,
it's gonna take
it
time.
takes time.
It's a culture of burnout, right? So what we've
Yeah.
inherited is a culture of burnout and
Yeah.
burnout as a badge. And as somebody who has burnout, I definitely don't wear it as a badge. And
Woo!
as I saw myself reapproaching burnout, I saw it down the line. I said, my goodness. And it was burnout from abundance. And I saw, no,
Yes.
no, I don't need to stop.
Yes.
I need to pause, reflect, retool. I need to take a fallow season. I need to, just
Woo!
tailor it back a moment. Take a pause. Let all the versions of my energy body catch up with me. And particularly this season, embrace the rest. And so that's really like the core of the message that we wanted to share with you all today,
Yeah.
to just validate and share that you have the permission to take rest. You have the permission to admit to yourself that burnout's around the corner and you can do something about it now. And we also want to honor, there's a way to work hard and have rest be a priority, but no one's taught us how to do it. So we'd love to share some tools with y'all.
Yeah.
And not just because we've perfected them, but because we're also in the path with you all in this journey. And we know that these tools work and we know that they're not in your hands yet. So you can check us out anytime. Our website is deicipher.com. So we're decipher with the DEI. And I also just want to say I'm reaching out to you all today from the medieval imperial city of Fez, Morocco. And I'm the one hosting this Zoom. I'm seeing that the quality of this video is pretty low today. So just apologizing for that. But I think the audio is coming through loud and clear.
Yes.
And that's really the point. So
For sure.
thank you for joining us today. Thank you for watching this at a later time and feeling enriched by these words. And
That's
we
our
want
hope.
you to be in space with us. So we're going to be here every Monday, except Thanksgiving week, I think, or one of those. But just go.
Yeah.
We'll let y'all know. But we're here every Monday through the end of the year. It's the Christmas week. Yeah, we're going to skip that one.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right.
Rest time.
Rest time.
And we'll be announcing our first workshop that will be coming up real soon as well. So looking forward to being in space with you all. And thank you for being here and listening.
Yeah. Thank you so much.